You've been taught to be honest, to be expressive, to speak your truth, to let people know the real you. That is the first mistake. You've been conditioned to believe that intelligence must be proven, that your strengths must be displayed, and that being misunderstood is a sign of failure. But the truth is the opposite. The more you are understood, the more you are vulnerable. This world is not built to reward truth. It is built to exploit visibility. When people know what you can do, they know how to stop you. When they understand how you think, they know how to manipulate you. When they can predict your behavior, they own you. You've spent your life trying to appear competent. You've tried to show you're not weak. You want others to respect you. You want your intelligence acknowledged. But here's the cold truth. The most intelligent men are rarely seen. They are mistaken for background characters. They are misread on purpose. Because power isn't about recognition. Power is about control. And the easiest way to control a room is to appear smaller than it. You think pretending to be foolish is dangerous. But in fact, it is the only defense in a world designed to test your limits and punish your strengths. Machiavelli understood this. In The Prince, he wrote, "A wise man ought always to follow the paths beaten by great men and to imitate those who have been supreme." But the supreme rarely announce themselves. They cloaked their ambition beneath incompetence. They let enemies underestimate them until it was too late. You've probably seen it in the workplace. The one who speaks the loudest. The one who always knows the answer. The one who dominates every meeting. He looks like a leader, but he is also the first target, the first to be envied, the first to be outmaneuvered. Now, think of the quiet one, the one who nods, the one who says, "I'm not sure," the one who lets others win the argument. He is storing information. He is learning the hierarchy. He is listening for weakness. And when the time is right, he strikes not loudly, but finally. You've made the error of believing that silence is submission, that nodding is weakness, that appearing slow is an insult to your intelligence. But in strategy, the most dangerous move is the one they never see coming. So let's go deeper. Why do you feel the urge to speak, to prove, to correct others? Because you want to be seen, because you crave recognition, because you were raised to believe that value must be validated by others. But that craving is your leash. And the ones who pull it, your boss, your peers, your partner, they don't reward you for being real. They use your openness to define your limits. They say this is what he can handle. This is what makes him angry. This is how far he'll go. You think you're showing confidence. You're actually giving away your playbook. Now ask yourself, what if you gave them nothing? What if you smiled when you were insulted? What if you agreed when they expected a fight? What if you asked questions you already knew the answers to? What if you walked away from a game they thought you'd play? They would mistake you for a coward, but only until you flip the board. Pretending to be foolish is not acting. It is camouflage. It is psychological warfare disguised as silence. It is Machiavellian in its roots, not because it lies, but because it withholds. You do not need to react. You do not need to teach anyone a lesson. You do not need to expose how much you know. You need to observe. Because the one who plays the fool learns everything. The one who plays the genius becomes predictable. You've been trained to respond. That's why they can control you. A single text message ruins your day. A single insult makes you explain yourself. A single moment of rejection makes you spiral. But imagine this instead. You see through everything, and you show nothing. That is the beginning of mastery. You are not here to be understood. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be seen. You are here to win. And the man who wins is not the one who speaks the most. He is the one no one thought to fear, because he looked forgettable until he wasn't. You've spent your whole life trying to prove you're smart. Now it's time to try something new. Pretend to be stupid. Let them lower their guard, and then walk through them like a ghost. The mask of foolishness is the strongest armor you'll ever wear, and once you master it, they'll never see you coming. You think misunderstanding is a mistake, but misunderstanding is a tool. The moment someone misunderstands you and you let them, they lower their defenses. They stop calculating against you. They start revealing themselves. This is the exact opposite of how you've been conditioned to behave. You want to explain, to clarify, to correct the record, to make sure no one walks away with the wrong idea about you. But every time you do that, you lose ground, because now they know exactly how you want to be seen. And once they know how you want to be seen, they can threaten it and control you. Let's be coldly clear. Every human being is emotionally wired to correct others' perceptions. It's a trap buried inside your biology. You've been taught that reputation matters, so you try to control how people see you. But the more you chase perception, the more predictable you become. The more you resist misunderstanding, the more power others gain over your emotions. The Machiavellian man doesn't resist misunderstanding. He creates it. He watches it bloom, and he feeds it like a parasite, while he prepares his real strategy underground. Consider this psychological pattern. People don't fear what they understand. They fear what they can't predict. So when you walk into a room and say what you think, when you display your goals, when you make your intelligence visible, you lose your edge, because now they can shape their reaction. Now they can mirror your words and twist them back at you. Now they know what buttons to press. But when you walk into a room and remain silent when your body language is neutral, when your gaze doesn't seek validation, when your words are vague or absent, they begin to invent stories about you. They project, and projection is chaos. You become a mirror to their fears, not a target of their strategies. Here's a cold truth most men never grasp. Being misunderstood makes you powerful because it makes you unknowable. You are no longer a player on their map. You are a shadow. They talk about you when you leave the room. They study you. And worst of all, they doubt themselves around you. This doubt is your weapon, not charisma, not explanation, not knowledge, doubt. When you learn to tolerate, even weaponize being underestimated, the world opens. Because people stop defending against you, they start exposing their own flaws. In dating, this is how seduction works. A woman sees a man who doesn't chase, who doesn't explain, who doesn't overshare, and she feels uneasy. Not because he is unattractive, but because she can't figure him out. She doesn't know if he wants her. She doesn't know what he's thinking. She can't predict how to control him emotionally. And that mystery, that gap of knowledge, is more seductive than any compliment, gift, or show of charm. But the average man can't hold that silence. He feels the tension rise and rushes to fill it. He explains himself. He validates her assumptions. He tries to be clear. And with that clarity, he becomes forgettable. In business, it's the same. The loudest entrepreneur, the most visible founder, the one constantly sharing strategy, numbers, milestones, he looks successful. But he is being tracked. He is being dissected by competitors. His every move is recorded. The truly strategic operator. He says little. He lets people think he's small. He hides behind confusion. He sends emails with no detail. He leaves meetings with half sentences. He delays decisions on purpose. And behind that mask, he builds empires, because power is not in clarity. Power is in confusion. This doesn't mean you act dumb. This doesn't mean you pretend you don't know what's going on. It means you allow misjudgment deliberately. When someone says, "You probably don't understand this," you nod and smile. When someone insults you with subtlety, you act like you didn't catch it. When someone over-explains something you already know, you thank them for teaching you. Not because you're submissive, but because now they believe they're superior. And superior people don't protect themselves from inferiors, which makes them ripe for the fall. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so obedient to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived." Let that sink in. You are surrounded by people who want to believe what's easy, what flatters them, what confirms their place in the hierarchy. Let them. Play the slow one, play the harmless one, play the one who can't possibly be a threat. And then when it's too late, reveal yourself. That's how the fox survives in a world of lions. That's how the wolf eats without howling. And that's how you become untouchable, not by being loud, but by being invisible until it no longer matters what they think. You want strength to look like something, a square jaw, a firm tone, a quick comeback. But real strength doesn't need to perform. It doesn't need to be seen. It doesn't even need to move. Real strength is silent. It lets the weak parade themselves. It lets the insecure burn themselves out trying to prove superiority. And when they're exhausted, it closes the door. You keep asking why people don't respect you, why they talk over you, why they question your intelligence, why they assume they're better. But here's the truth you refuse to swallow. You show them too much. You care too much. You speak too quickly. You react too easily. You want people to stop attacking you, stop underestimating you, stop using you, but their behavior is a response to what you've shown. And what you've shown is this: you need to be seen, and that makes you easy to control. Let me tell you how a silent predator survives. He walks into a room and doesn't seek attention. He's not alpha. He's not beta. He's absent. Not because he's weak, but because he doesn't need to be in the spotlight to own the space. He watches. He collects details. He notes the hierarchy, the insecurities, the fake smiles, the alliances. He lets them talk. He lets them compete. And when a power vacuum appears, he doesn't step into it. He collapses it, because he already knew where everyone would land when the pressure hit. He didn't need to prove his value. He calculated it in silence. You think survival means being seen as competent. You think success means being liked. You think strength means being loud. That's how prey thinks. But if you want to be untouchable, you need to stop playing the social game. You need to become strategically invisible. In a hierarchy, the moment you declare yourself a threat, the system moves to remove you. People start gossiping. Superiors start limiting access. Colleagues stop inviting you in. Even friends grow cold. But if you appear neutral, slow, maybe even lost, they lower their guard. They give you access. They overlook you until you're sitting behind the curtain. And then it's too late for them to stop what's already been set in motion. Strategic invisibility means you don't need to win every argument. You let them win while you win control. You don't correct others publicly. You let them look foolish while you gather influence. You don't interrupt. You let silence pressure them into revealing more than they intended. You don't defend your reputation. You let people talk while you decide what they'll never know. Because your real advantage is this: they don't even realize you're dangerous. And the greatest enemy is the one you don't notice until it's too late. Carl Jung wrote, "The most dangerous things are not the ones we fear. They are the ones we ignore. When you are invisible, you are ignored. And when you are ignored, you move freely. No one guards against what they do not see. That is your power." But here's the catch. To wield this power, you must kill your ego. You must tolerate being looked down on, being misunderstood, being excluded, being misjudged. And you must learn to enjoy it. Because every time someone underestimates you, they give you space to breathe, time to think, and room to move. They're handing you control piece by piece while they believe they're winning. You don't correct them, you don't fight them, you just let them keep believing. Until belief becomes delusion, and delusion becomes destruction. That's why the silent predator is never hunted. He doesn't provoke, he doesn't roar, he doesn't bite first. He waits. Because the moment you bite first, you show your teeth, you show your pattern, you show your threat level. And once you do that, they calculate how to kill you. But when you play the fool, when you nod, smile, and stay silent, you become unreadable. And unreadable men are unkillable. You don't win in this world by being liked. You don't win by being understood. You don't win by being right. You win by being the one nobody saw coming. And to do that, you must become invisible by choice. Let them underestimate you. Let them mock you. Let them forget you. Because when they forget you, they stop protecting themselves. And then you own the game they thought you didn't understand. You've been trained to hide weakness. You flex, you posture, you pretend you're unaffected. You think if people see you struggle, they'll lose respect. But Machiavelli understood something you don't. It is not real weakness that destroys you. It is perceived strength that invites enemies. When you look like a threat, they sharpen their knives. When you look like prey, they turn their backs. And the smartest predator attacks the back, not the chest. Let's get surgical. You walk into a meeting. You have the sharpest mind in the room. You've done the research. You know the numbers. You know the flaw in the proposal before the speaker finishes. Your instinct is to correct them, to raise your hand, to say something clever. That instinct is weakness. Because what happens next? They mark you. They feel threatened. They smile, but quietly place you in a mental box. This one needs watching. And just like that, you've exposed your position on the chessboard. Now you're being played. But imagine you hold your tongue. You let the flawed plan pass. You nod along like you missed it. You say, "Interesting point." Now they relax. Now they trust you. Now they invite you deeper. And when the time comes, you make the flaw their idea. You reshape the plan quietly. You get the credit without the war. Not because you fought, but because you made yourself seem harmless until you became necessary. You still think dominance comes from display. But in real power dynamics, the one who controls the outcome is rarely the one who speaks first. It's the one who controls perception. That means you must learn the art of deliberate weakness. Let people think you don't know how to play the game. You're a bit too slow. You're not ambitious enough. You're insecure. Let them believe it. Because every lie they tell themselves about you is a door they leave unlocked. And one day when they least expect it, you walk through it. This is why true manipulators smile when they're insulted. Why they agree when they're challenged. Why they act confused when they understand perfectly. Because every time they appear weak, they trigger a response in others: "I'm better than this man." And that thought blinds them. You want to outsmart people with logic, but people are not logical. They are emotional. The only way to outsmart emotions is to make people feel safe with you. And the only way to do that is to hide the part of you that is capable of killing them. This is not cowardice. It is psychological war. You are not bowing. You are baiting. You are not avoiding conflict. You are designing it. The man who shows weakness on purpose is far more terrifying than the man who shows strength without strategy. Because when you don't know how strong someone is, you live in fear of what you haven't seen. Let's look at relationships. You think women want certainty. You think being nice, clear, open, and honest will make them feel secure. And when they leave you, you don't understand. You were good. You were available. You were transparent. Exactly. You were never a threat. You never left any mystery. You gave away all your power at the door by trying to be safe. What captures the female mind is emotional asymmetry. A man who doesn't over-explain, who doesn't argue, who lets her assume and refuses to correct her. Because now she's chasing resolution. She's chasing understanding. She's emotionally invested, while you remain centered, silent, still. This principle applies to every area of life. The louder you are, the easier you are to shoot. The clearer your motives, the easier they are to block. But if you give them contradiction, if you appear emotional one day and calm the next, naive in one meeting and precise in another, you fracture their ability to classify you. They no longer know what to expect. And when people don't know what to expect, they freeze. And when they freeze, you move. Marcus Aurelius said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." So stop trying to look graceful. Start becoming unpredictable. Start hiding your next move. Start losing small fights on purpose to win the war they don't know they're in. They laugh at you. Let them. They pity you. Let them. They think they're winning. Perfect. Because when the trap closes, they'll wonder how you built it without saying a word. You've been chasing recognition, chasing status, chasing clarity. But none of that leads to power. Not real power. Real power is not in being liked. It is not in being praised. It is not even in being right. Real power is in being untouchable. And to become untouchable, you must stop trying to be understood. You still believe they need to know who you really are. You still think there's value in telling your story. You still want them to see the effort, the intention, the good heart beneath your silence. But here's the final truth. You owe them nothing. Not your truth. Not your pain. not your explanations, not your justification for why you are the way you are. That need to be understood, that's the last chain, and it's the one that keeps you from absolute power. Imagine walking into every room with zero desire to correct anyone's impression of you. They call you arrogant. You nod. They call you lazy. You agree. They say you're weak. You smile, and then you walk away untouched, unmoved, unbothered. Because now, they've shown their hand. They think you are less, and that means they have already lost. They've underestimated a man who controls how he is seen. You are not misunderstood. You are engineered. The Machiavellian man does not live to be known. He lives to be effective. He knows that humans fear what they cannot define. So he becomes a ghost in the room, present but ungraspable, polite but unreadable, passive but alert. He collects leverage. He bends narratives. He exits before you know what he did. And while others waste their lives building reputations, he builds realities, silently. You've been trained to chase approval, from parents, from peers, from lovers, from strangers. But approval is leverage handed to others. Because whoever can take your peace by misunderstanding, you owns your identity. And whoever owns your identity controls your decisions. It ends here. You must bury your need to be clear, kill your need to defend, starve your need to be seen, because the final form of power is not control, it is detachment. And detachment begins the moment you accept. Let them think what they want. Let them feel smarter. Let them talk. You're not here to convince. You're not here to explain. You're not here to be recognized. You are here to become so quiet that no one notices when you rise. And when you strike, it's already too late. Now remember, you can't fake this. You can't mimic stillness while chasing noise. You can't pretend to be quiet if your mind is screaming for validation. You must become the man who welcomes misjudgment like a gift, who smiles at insult, who nods at doubt, who thanks people for the crumbs while quietly building the kingdom. Do not tell them you are dangerous. Let them joke. Let them forget. Let them label you. And when the moment comes, you don't announce. You don't correct. You don't posture. You arrive. You dominate. You leave no exit. And they will never know how long you waited in silence just for that moment. Final instruction: disappear into the ordinary. Disarm with humility. Seduce with mystery. Win with timing. Because nothing is more terrifying than a man they forgot existed until he owned everything they thought was safe. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be loved. You don't need to be believed. You only need to be feared quietly. With respect, with distance, with silence. And that silence begins now.